Welcome to the virtual orientation for Digital Works. First and foremost, I want to thank you for your interest in our program. This particular informational orientation that I'm going to show you today was designed to help you decide whether or not work at home is right for you. It's not right for everybody, but in case it is right for you, by the time I finish with this presentation, you should have a good idea as to whether or not you want to move forward. Taking a look at what you've done so far. So far, you've registered online. By registering online, it's given you the link to watch this orientation. Throughout this orientation today, you're going to be given 3 key words. Those 3 key words that you're going to be given throughout the orientation need to be sent back to your facilitator in the subject line of the email. Very important, in the subject line. Then your facilitator is going to reach back out to contact you to set up a time for you to come in and do your assessments. And last but not least, those who qualify will then be offered a seat in one of our upcoming classes. We take a look at the evolution of job searching. Back in the day, it used to be a help wanted sign in a window. That was what you saw. If you were interested, you took it inside and you had the job. Sometimes you didn't even need a resume. But it proceeded, and then we had the classified ads. And I personally can vouch for circling many, many things in a classified ads and sending out tons of snail mail resumes and hearing back from a couple. Okay, and if that's what you did as well, then you're right there with me. Job boards also, a great addition. If you had a local JFS or something, a job place where you went and saw the job boards, great addition. But they're only as good as the people who were keeping them up. So when I had one in my center, I did notice that if a job was filled, I had to go over and remove that, because if I didn't remove it, what you might do is you might spend days preparing for that interview or for that company just to find out that they'd already filled all their positions. So you have to be careful with job boards. Job fairs, fantastic addition, and I'm going to say maybe late 90s, early beginning 2000, those came into being. Not just a good idea for you to be able to go and find out about these companies, but it gave those companies a chance to meet you as well at the same time. So it's a two-way street. Anything that you found out at that job fair, you may reach out to those people afterwards, thank them for their time, which is a huge plus. You're going to set yourself apart from everybody else that they see. But normally those were places that needed to hire for a local job. Well, what if you wanted to work for something that wasn't local? Well, you could go to social media. And on social media, if you have not already tried this, I double dare you, go out to Facebook and say, I'm looking for a job. Does anybody know of anything? And by the time you hit send, you're going to have everybody and his brother's opinions, because that's what you've got. You've got everybody letting you know what they know of that's available, or this company is bad, or this company is great. And social media is a great platform, but keep in mind it's all opinion. Okay? Don't set your goals off of somebody else's opinions. Digital Works, however, is something new to the scene. I guess it's really not so new. We started in 2013, but what Digital Works does, it's a little bit different than any of these others. We don't just help you look for that job and help place you with that company. We actually train you to be able to interview, resume, cover letter, the whole 9 yards. We train you every step of the way for that opportunity. So we train you and we help you with the opportunity to find the right fit for you. So the job market has changed, and it continues to change. The biggest change that it's making right now is the shift over to the work-at-home world. It is the largest section of the employment that is changing, but in order to keep up with it, what do you have to do differently? Well, if you're thinking you're going to be able to use your same old resume and your same old everything, it doesn't work that way. You're going to have to adapt to what they need to see. So in class, we are going to help you change all of these things. Change the way you look at everything, change the future, change the way you see that job. It's not necessarily an 8 to 5 anymore. Once you see the opportunities that are out there, then we will be able to meet you at your point of need. Keyword number 1. For everybody in, it's ready. It's digital, D-I-G-I-T-A-L. So we're going to talk a little bit about telework, because for you to be interested in working from home, it's important that you understand what telework is. And it is actually a job where you work from home, but you're using the internet, a computer, and a home phone generally. Okay? when we originally put this together, 1 out of 5 workers were teleworkers. That was 20% of the workforce. And we've been doing this program since 2013. That number has climbed quite a bit. As you can see, since 2005, the number of teleworkers has increased by over 60%. Now there's over 2 million people who work this flexible schedule. That's a 60% increase, and it is the fastest growing segment of the workforce. If you're wondering who is teleworking and you're sitting there thinking, I bet it's the lady that has 6 kids. Well, not necessarily. Parents, yes, but it's not necessarily women. Over half are men that decide to work from home and telework. So we want to take just a few seconds to look at a typical teleworker and what they save, because this is huge. You're going to look at some of the jobs in a few minutes here, but right now when we're looking at what you can save, you need to factor this in. So right now, if you drive back and forth to work every day, you're spending gas. Depending on how far you're driving, you're giving up your own personal time. You're increasing the amount of oil changes and everything else that your car has to do. Now let's talk about food. If you're working, for instance, in a city like this, when you go to that city, if you didn't take your time to pack your lunch, you're now buying lunch out. Chances are you're getting something fast food, which there's a two-edged sword there, okay? Yes, it's good for the economy here in the big cities, but is it really good long-term for your health? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on what you get, okay? So you're spending money out, it's not going into your local economy, and you may be looking at some increased doctor bills later on down the road. Then you have to look at childcare. If you pay for childcare, which I did for many years, I basically worked to pay for childcare. There wasn't a whole lot left over by the time I was done. So if you don't have to pay for childcare, factor that savings in. So you have not just the car, not just the food, not just that, but you also have one additional savings, which is the clothing. If you're working from home, 9 times out of 10, the jobs that we're going to introduce to you do not require you to be online as a visual person. So you could legitimately work in your pajamas. You could. I'm not saying you have to, and I'm not saying you want to, but you could. So now we need to take a look at figuring out whether teleworking is right for you. We've discussed some of the pros. Let's take a look at some of the cons. The lack of social interaction. If you're a social butterfly who really, really needs to be surrounded by people to work, let's say 9 o'clock rings and the buzzer, everybody heads to the water cooler because it's somebody's birthday and everybody has cupcakes. Well, you won't have that when you're working from home. Basically, you're alone, you're in your own environment, and if you don't have a good support system to work at home, it may not be a good fit for you. Self-motivation is the next one. I would tell you, if you are a self-motivated person and you know who you are, this may be the right type of job for you. If you're not self-motivated, I would beg you to please reconsider. And here's why. I'm going to give you a scenario, okay? Let's say you move forward, you end up finishing the training and you get that job. And Monday rolls around on this new job, and on Monday, the weekend was just so tough. And you just can't pull yourself out of bed. So you don't work Monday. That's fine. Some of the employers will let you skate with that. But on Tuesday, you get up and your daughter's running a fever. So what do you got to do? You're going to have to take your daughter to the doctor's. Now you come home and Tuesday afternoon, you do work for 4 hours. On Wednesday, you wake up, and what happens on Wednesday? Something you picked up when you were in the doctor's office yesterday. Now you're hoarse, you're coughing, and you don't feel good. So you don't work at all on Wednesday. When Thursday rolls around, you put in a full 8-hour day, and you're feeling pretty good about it. Friday rolls around, you get up and realize, whoa, this is the weekend that my family is getting ready to go on that camping trip, and I have to get to the store, I have to pack the camper, I have to get everything ready, so you don't work Friday. Well, what's going to happen is this particular week that I've just described, when you get paid for it, it might be a week later, 2 weeks later, depending on how your employer pays, you're going to get a check that's going to be this size. When you get that check, the first thing that you're going to be tempted to do is to call me directly and say, Tammy, this program doesn't work. And I'm going to ask you very politely to check yourself, because what didn't work in this particular situation wasn't the program, it was you. And if you don't work, you won't get paid. So motivation, sometimes the almighty dollar is what you need to motivate you, and if that works for you, great. But just know that that is very, very important in work at home. You have to be able to separate out work and life. If you have little ones at home, or I venture to say big ones sometimes, they'll lose something. And because they see you, you're there. And because you're there, they can come in and bother you and ask you. And it's just a constant overturn. You have to be able to hang your shingle out, just like the doctors did. Doctor is in, doctor is out. When you're working, you have to be able to hang that out so everybody in your household knows this is important. I'm busy right now. Your question is important to me as well, but it can wait. The best example of this is I had a lady in West Union. She had a 5-year-old son. So depending on how old your children are, if you have children, this might apply. This is as simple as I can put it for you. When he would walk in the door, she would say, if mommy's doing this, you're doing this. And he got it. That's all it took. So it's not necessarily something that's hard to do, but it is something that you have to be able to separate your work and life. Longer hours and distractions. Well, longer hours might seem like a pro, not a con, but sometimes you're going to be tempted to overdo it. And once you get started, it's a little bit easier. Many of these companies will let you work as many hours as you want to. So all of a sudden you're going, well, that's great. I can work 60 hours this week and 80 hours next week. And okay, well, maybe so. But now what did you stop doing? You stopped taking care of yourself. You stopped eating right. You stopped sleeping. And for a lot of people that work from home, they work from home because there might be a medical reason to need to work from home. So you need to, first and foremost, take care of yourself. The longer hours definitely can be a con if you push yourself too hard. And distractions. What kind of distractions do you have around your house? 4-legged? 2-legged? Doorbells on the front door? A lot of people have an office in their house, and that's fantastic. I encourage you to have a separate space where you can do this in your house, but you might have a window, and right outside the window, your neighbor likes to mow the lawn every Wednesday. Well, that's a distraction, okay? So those kind of things you have to figure out a way to be able to quell. You have to be 18 or over to enroll. Obviously, when you enrolled, when you went online and registered, you would have caught that, but that's for the employers. That's nothing else. So we take one step back and look at some of the pros. With no commute, what do you gain? You gain more time with your family. I mean, isn't that really what you want anyhow, some more time with your family? And we discussed the cost savings because you don't eat out, the vehicle, the wardrobe, the child care, a relaxed atmosphere. If you've ever worked in an office setting, there's generally somebody there that keeps it from being a relaxed atmosphere. Unless you live with your in-laws, I'm going to say your home is probably pretty relaxed. So the relaxed atmosphere of working in your home helps the stress level and everything else for you go down. And the flexibility. These companies are fantastic. So we have as a company that will let you schedule when you want to work, and we have companies that will give you options of hours to work. So there's the whole gambit in there, full-time, part-time, 1099, W-2. The flexibility is unreal. Now that you know all that, all roads are pointing to telework. Isn't it time to make the road less traveled your new way to work? A little bit about who we are. Digital Works is a division of Connected Nation. Connected Nation is a leading technology organization committed to bringing affordable, high-speed internet and broadband-enabled resources to all. They focus on 3 things: access, adoption, and use. Okay? If you want to take notes, this may be a good place to do so. Why? Because I never get involved in anything until I have an opportunity to check it out. So I encourage you to please do the same. The digitalworksjobs.com is the website specifically for Digital Works. The connectednation.org is the parent company, and the driveyourlearning.org is something that you have access to, and you may not even know this, so I'm going to share a little secret with you. By registering for this program, you now have access to driveyourlearning.org. If you would go there today and log in, it would ask you to sign in. You would use the email address that you originally registered for us with. And they asked you to set up a password originally, so it'll want your password that you set up as well. When you get into the Drive portal, there are a ton of free classes that are out there. And I would encourage you to get out there and take a look. It's not just simple stuff. They get all the way into some programming classes as well. So take some time to get out there and take a look and see what's available on the Drive portal. If you decide to move forward with Digital Works, there is an area inside the Drive portal where we populate those classes as well. So they won't be there right now if you sign in, but if you would decide to move forward, that's the same portal that we work through. So how does it work? We start out with assessments. If you decide after today's presentation that this is something that you want to do, we would ask you to send us that email back with the 3 key words in the subject line of the email. I would then reach back out to you to set up a time for you to do the assessments. We have 4 different assessments: basic computer, using email, the World Wide Web, and Windows 10. Those 4 tests that we'll guide you through based on those scores from those 4 tests would tell us whether or not you're a good fit to move forward with training. Last but not least, we would also do a typing test for you. So what we're looking for on the typing test is a minimum of 25 words per minute. And the other scores from the other tests, we're looking for an overall 80% pass, an average of 80%. What happens if you really, really want to do this and you don't get those scores that you need to get on your assessment tests? Do we say, I'm sorry, we can't help you? No. I actually have a basic digital literacy package that I will work with you on, and I will help you and try to get your skills built up to where you might be able to get into a later class. But those are the things you need on the front side to be able to get into training. The training, once it starts, is 4 weeks long. Okay, the first 3 weeks are curriculum, and the 4th week we are actually applying for jobs in class. Generally, training runs in the daytime. Depending on your area, it may be offered in the afternoon and the daytime. We generally do not offer classes in the evening or the weekends. Certification happens at the end of training. So at the end of training, we have national retail, I'm going to get that wrong too, a National Retail Foundation test that you can take. It is a 3-year customer service and sales test. And once you get that certification, it looks fantastic as you move that over to your resume. And like I said, it's good for 3 years. Then you can retake it again if you need to in 3 years. But by that time, you're already going to be working, and you're not going to need to take it again. You'll also get a completion certificate from Digital Works when you're done. Then we go to placement. What do we do with placement? We work with you one-on-one. So you might go through 4 weeks of class together as a group, as a community. But when you get to the placement, we start to individualize your attention. Why? Because you might not be interested in the same kind of jobs that you're interested in. You might need 1099, you might need W-2, you might want part-time, you might want full-time. So everybody has different needs, and we'll base how we work on that individually with you as we move through placement. Ongoing mentorship. What is that? Well, when I first started, I really wanted to pull my hair out because I thought, how am I ever going to keep up with everybody myself? And then one day the magical light came on and I realized it's not me, it's not us, it's you. It's you and everyone that's come before you helping one another across the hurdles and across the bridges. So if you decide you want to go to work for company XYZ, and I know that I have 6 people over here that are already working for company XYZ, I'll put you in touch with one of them, and now you're talking directly. That's the mentorship. You're helping each other. So when you finish the program, you're going to be there to help the people that come after you as well. What do we get into in those 4 weeks of training? Well, the first phase is customer service. In the customer service phase, you will do, oh my goodness, let me think now. It is 43 mods. I had to go back there and count them in my head. 43 different mods online, and what those mods will provide you with is such things as how to handle an irate customer, questioning skills, listening skills. You'll get into a bunch of selling technique stuff. All that stuff will be included in the customer service phase, as well as we will get into things with you like message transcription, where we'll actually do message transcription with you in class. Phonetics. So when you look at the phonetic alphabet, you will be able to actively use the phonetic alphabet and translate things over for your customers on the phone to be able to clarify, you know, was that a T or was that a C? You'll be able to ask them using the phonetic alphabet, so you'll be able to properly do that. We also go through the state abbreviations with you because that's going to be huge and vital as far as being able to identify where these people are calling from. We look at time zones and military time as well, because just if you're located on the East Coast, that doesn't mean that all your calls are going to come from the East Coast. It also doesn't mean that your employer is going to be on the East Coast. So if your employer reaches out to you and they are in California and they set up a 10 o'clock appointment for you, you need to know what time that is for you if you're on the East Coast. So we're going to help you manhandle and learn all those avenues. Peppered into phase one, we have quizzes and activities and role playing and all sorts of things that will help bring to life the things that you learned in those mods. Once that's done, we cycle into phase two, which is business and technical skills. So you're going to be working from home, more or less your own company, and you need to know how to handle things. How do you handle self-employment income and self-employment taxes? Then we also want you to know all the things you need to know about your computer. How do you set up dual monitors? How do you clear your cache? What is this thing that they're talking about with viruses, and how do I protect my system? And so we want to give you all of that information that we can. Typing skills is something that we'll work with you every day on as you go through the class. The nice part about the typing skills, to graduate, you need to hit 32 words per minute. So the minimum to get in was 25, to get out it's 32, and that will qualify you for almost every one of the employers. If you're looking to get into some writing type things, they look for a much higher number, but for customer service, the 32 is more than enough. And then phase four gets into career readiness. So we will actually take you and we will work with you on interviewing, interview skills. You will do your first virtual interview with us. After you've done your virtual interview, we'll do mock interviews in class, then we'll break into resumes. We will take your resume. If you have one already, fantastic. We are going to make it telework ready, work at home ready. We're going to give you the things that they're looking for, that they want to see on that resume, so that way it can actually make it through that scanner into the HR person's hands and get considered for that position. So we're going to help to redo resumes with you. Then we're going to do cover letters with you as well. And a lot of people are like, oh, that you don't need cover letters anymore. Well, if you're looking to separate yourself out in the business world, a cover letter will do that, as well as a thank you letter after you've had an interview. Those are things that we'll go over in career readiness. We go through interviewing skills, mentoring, and all that stuff. Everything is packed into here, getting you ready for the very, very next step, which is placement. And getting you to this stage is what we spend 3 weeks doing, and then this is what it's all about, okay? So if you are interested in those 3 weeks, but you really don't want the job, this may not be the right opportunity for you, because everything that we do is to help people gain employment at the end, okay? Does that make sense? There's some things that you need to consider about what you're going to need to do in order to find that job. The first thing is you're going to have to successfully complete our course. Like I said before, 80% pass or fail on quizzes. Yes, that's going to be there throughout the course. But successful completion to me is being there every day, showing up on time, because that's what's going to speak volumes. If you can't be there every day, if you can't show up on time, that's what the employers are going to get on their end. And if we would accept that for class, then you're going to expect the employers to accept it. And I'm telling you right now, they won't. They won't. They will just let you go, and they don't even have a hard time with it. So in order to successfully complete our course, you have to be there, and you have to finish. You need to then apply for various telework positions or call center job as the facilitator directs you to do so. And the reason that I say that is, if you go out willy-nilly, you're going to find a bunch of stuff that's not legitimate. We are going to filter you the legitimate opportunities, but it's based on your needs. The person that sits beside you in class may not be looking at the same jobs that the person that sits on your right does. Everybody may be looking at something totally different, or you could all be looking at the same company. You never know. But whatever we give you to apply for, that's what we're going to help you with. Then after you get an invitation from the employers, we want you to come back to the center to complete interviews, assessments, do the background checks, voice auditions, anything that they're asking to be done. You can do it right here in the facility. As long as we're here and we've got that time, by all means, please come back in. This one here is very important. I know I mentioned it early on, but if you put in half the effort, please don't expect to get anything more out of it than half the results. And if you're really looking for only half, this may not be, once again, the right opportunity for you. Keyword number 2 is jobs, J-O-B-S, jobs. Okay, kind of an overview. Here we go. We want to be prepared to put the time and effort in that's going to be necessary, but you have to keep this in mind. Once you finish the 3 weeks of training and you get to that 4th week of job searching, it's not an overnight activity. It is not something where on Friday you finish the training, so on Monday you have a job. That is not how it works. On Monday you start job searching. Job searching is a full-time job. So I know that you're used to that, but you need to know that it's not an overnight activity. It's not going to happen in 10 seconds, but we're going to be with you through the whole thing. This one here is huge because you will most likely be turned down for some of the jobs that you apply for. It's absolutely part of the process. It doesn't necessarily mean anything about you. For instance, I had 2 people that sat side by side together in a class, and they both at the end of class decided that this one particular company was a good fit for them. They both applied the same day, the same time, and I could not have, if I had to choose, I couldn't choose which one was above. They were so equally matched. What happened was one of the 2 got an offer for a job and the other one did not. And they came to me and they said, I don't understand why I didn't get that offer. She got it, why didn't I? We talked to the company. The company needed to fill 100 spots. I'll let you guess what number spots she filled. She filled spot 100. He was 101. Had nothing to do with his ability or his inability. It had to do with they only needed 100. That's where the line was drawn. So his was in there for the next round of hires, which he did get hired on at the next round of hires with that company. But at that moment, you tend to feel defeated, and I'm begging you, please don't do that. We'll get through it together. Giving up is not an option, and together we can do this. Okay, so we're going to take a look at some of the job opportunities, examples of job opportunities. Inbound calls, yes, ton of jobs that have inbound calls, inbound customer service. You have a few that deal with outbound. If you're interested in outbound, great, we can match you up with that, but the majority are inbound customer service. There's sales involved with some of them. If you enjoy sales, let me know that. That's a huge plus. Upsells. Any of you been to McDonald's? Do you want fries with that? You were just upsold. And everybody seems to, when it comes to sales, they have this stigma with sales. Please don't do that. As you look at the course and stuff that we teach, we are merely offering options. You're not trying to persuade anybody to buy anything. You're not trying to twist anybody's arm. If sales are involved, you're offering, and it's up to them. Because most of these people are calling you because they've seen it online. And they are already interested in the product anyhow. So you're not trying to force anything on them. But an upsell would be if there's something else that might help to enhance that product. Let's say the product that they called to buy was pots and pans, and the upsell would have been clear see-through lids so you can see what's cooking and how it's doing. Okay, so that's an upsell. An affinity is something that's totally different than what they called in to buy, but it's just tacked on at the end. Let's see how many of you have had these. So you call in to order something and they say, just because you're one of the first 50 callers, you get 3 free magazine subscriptions. Yes? Yes. That is an affinity. And that's just an agreement that the 2 companies have made with each other that after we get done with our sales call, we're going to offer this for you. That's all that is an affinity. And there are also companies that do surveys. You can do them in person, you can do them online, by phone. So you have all that to work in on the front side. You could have companies out of these, the first ones that we're going to introduce you to, that are W-2. Or you could have the companies that are 1099. What's the difference between the 2? Well, the W-2s generally come with benefits, generally. But they do hold back part of the taxes and stuff for you. A 1099, you're an independent contractor. You're going to be responsible for all of your own taxes. I would recommend somebody who is highly organized for that type of work, because it's not that it's hard, you just have to keep everything and you have to be organized. Okay? The job opportunities, depending on the employer, can either be hourly or some of them could be per talk minute, which means if they're an hourly, well, they're going to give you the hours that you want to work, or you're going to choose your hours and they're going to agree to pay you X amount per hour that you work. If it's per talk minute, you're going to be on the phone, and every time a customer calls, the ticker starts. And so you're going to be able to get paid for the time that you talk to the customers. And you hang up and it stops. You're still available to get calls, but you're only paid per talk minute. They have incentives and other things that come into play with both when you're taking calls. And then you have a ton of different scheduling options. Like I said, you could schedule your own, or you can have them tell you when they want to work. If it's available, you could work from the center. And in different parts of the country, we have some centers that do offer that and some that don't. Or you have to be ready to work from home, which means you need a computer, an internet, and a POTS line, which is a plain old telephone service. Plain old telephone service. No bells, no whistles, no call forwarding, no call waiting, no voicemail. You want to make sure that that line is clear of all that. If the call comes in and you're on it, it needs to bounce back to them with a busy signal. And most of the companies out there now do not offer POTS lines on the front side. They offer one with all the bells and whistles. Why? Because it's a little higher dollar, and most people don't ask for POTS lines. So know that that's what you need when you get ready to move forward. Don't get it installed at your house just because you decide that this is what you want to do until you see at the end of training which one of the opportunities you're going for. Career path options. Customer service. Customer service is what we train and what we let you go on customer service. Now, it is important to understand that some of these companies that we release you to go out and apply and obtain jobs through, they don't just take calls for one customer. There's one particular company that I'm thinking of off the top of my head right now that takes calls for over 300 different companies. So when we say customer service, you could have a different type call almost every time you answer the phone for them. To move up just a tiny bit, you could become a dedicated agent. And as a dedicated agent, what would happen is every time your phone rings, it would be at least calls for that same type of company. Okay? For instance, and Allstate is a dedicated agent for one of the companies. Every time your phone rings, it's going to be an Allstate situation. It doesn't always mean that it's somebody in an accident. It could be somebody in an accident, it could be somebody checking on a claim, but it's always an Allstate call. That's a dedicated agent. Then you have tech support, help desk, and the list goes on and on. A lot of people are looking for a specific type of job. If that's what you're looking for a work-at-home environment, I would say that when you have your chance to sit with me one-on-one or you send me the email back, put that in the body of your email, what it is that you're searching for, what it is that your goal is to obtain. After you start working, we're going to require you to submit your wage information, the pay stub, and what that does is it verifies that you have a job. Okay? Everything on our end as we go through this operates off of funding, okay? And the funders all want to know that you're working. If they're paying for your seat in training, they want to know that you followed through and got a job, and this is how we supply that information back to them. We do not show them your pay stub, we do not share your social security number or anything like that with them. We merely tell them that we have received verification of your employment. The other thing that it helps us do, if you noticed when you looked at some of the signs and stuff for this program, it said starting wages between this and this. Well, this is how we find those starting wages. When you tell us what you're making, we put that back into the puzzle and we add it all up, divide it out, and figure out what the new average starting wages are. So this is how all of that is done. Third key word, work, W-O-R-K. Now you've got all three. I hope you've got them written down. A little tiny bit about the classes. I told you earlier that full-time classes are offered. They are 4 weeks long, generally 4 hours a day through the course of the week. Normally classes will run from 9 to 1 or 1 to 5 in the day, 9 to 1 being the norm for the most. The next step, if you are interested though, is to send the email to your facilitator, and that's going to be the name that was in that welcome email. Send that back to them. It has to contain the 3 key words that y'all now have, and after that they're going to reach back out to you to schedule a time for you to come in and get the next step. Yes, absolutely. Do you have questions? Which if you do, that's absolutely normal. I'm sure I didn't cover everything. Please know that your facilitator should be able to answer any questions you might have. Probably also a good place is when you send that email back to them. You could also send that, put that in the body of the email and have any questions you might have answered. You should also have a phone contact number for them in your welcome email as well. Okay, last but not least, I wanted to thank each and every one of you for your interest in our program. We look forward to working with you if this is what you decide on doing, and we wish everyone the best. Thank you very much.